Hey everybody, lovely to see you. Hi Sophie. Hi Shivani. Hi Grace. Good to see you. Okay, so hi Anna. Hi Sophie. So this is actually just the opening ceremony, just to start off with, and then when we're finished with that, we're going to plan our teen panel, Grace and Shivani. Okay, so we'll just do the opening ceremony first. So if we can just close our eyes, I think what we would start with, as we always do in yoga, is bringing in the energy of moving obstacles, removing obstacles. So that is in the form of Ganesha, which is the archetype of clearing the path and clearing any misperceptions, misconceptions, and opening ourselves up to new ideas and new possibilities. So if we just close our eyes for a second and we can tune into that energy. So if you have an image of Ganesh, you can bring him to your awareness. If not, you can bring your awareness to the image of a large elephant kind of crashing through the forest, opening up the space in front of him or her. And while I just chant, if you want to chant with me with your microphones closed, because otherwise there's a real reverberation, then you can do that. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. 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 Om Bo Bhasvaha Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachotayat. Om Bo Bhasvaha Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachotayat. Om Bo Bhasvaha Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachotayat. Om. So just bring your awareness to this space that we've created, which is creating a dialogue and a conversation around young people, mental health and yoga, and allowing for there to be stimulation, inspiration, and fruitful, rich conversations that bring us all forward in our understanding and nourish us for the winter and the year ahead. So just bringing that intention, that sankalpa back into vision. And maybe if you have your own sankalpa now, you'd like to bring that into your awareness. So many of us had the sankalpa of simply supporting young people and bringing them into a place of thriving and nurturing them. Maybe you have your own sankalpa for these next 2 days. So just let's sit a minute with that. Relaxing your forehead, relaxing your eyes, your jaw, relaxing your hips and your shoulders, allowing the breath to flow freely. We'll inhale, bring the shoulders up and back and down, exhaling. Inhaling forwards and up and back and down, just releasing tension around the neck and shoulders. And let's do a little twist in the chair. So So just looking behind us now. And let's look behind us in the other direction. Interlace the fingers behind you. Draw the shoulder blades together. Stretching the pectorals in the front, look up. Feeling that lovely stretch across the front of the body. And let's do a little cat-cow. Bring the hands onto the knees and chin into the chest. Puffing the chest and the tummy out, shoulders back. And again, chin down. And again, shoulders back, inhaling. Okay, and anything else you need to do right now? Maybe you need to roll your wrists, or maybe you need to stretch your neck. Let's just do something for ourselves. So each individual, you can do what your body needs right now for a moment. Okay, I'm being back to center. So I just wanted to maybe state what we're doing here today for those of you who are watching and those of you who are watching it on record. The landscape that we're working in has shifted a little bit in the last few months and maybe year, in the sense that schools have very little money indeed and are less likely to be paying for people to come in to practice, to teach yoga, but more likely to train their own teachers. But what we are finding is there's a little bit more funding for youth work. And so working in the area of youth work will be really fruitful for Teen Yoga graduates. The other thing that we've talked about briefly today in the community forum this morning was around the Myriad project, which is the mindfulness project in schools, where the results have been less than favourable. And so we need to position ourselves vis-a-vis that and making ourselves very clear about what we're doing differently. Thirdly, the thing that we've noticed is, I'll just close my door because I can hear myself in the next room, is that we, there's plenty of schools who are offering some kind of ambassador program, mental health ambassador program, but without the support, without the background support. And this is something which I'm a little bit concerned about, and I think anybody working within therapeutic situations would be, is that, you know, if you're asking young people to work with other young people with mental health problems, we need them to be fully supported, as any therapist would be. And that's something that we need to underline, that's what our principle is always, that you are supported as adults and that the young people are also supported with mentorship, whether it's with their yoga teacher or whether it's someone that they choose to talk to about what's been going on in the class, so that they feel fully supported about that. So that's one thing, but I think there's quite a lot of different aspects that we'll be going through this weekend, particularly about the process of yoga for eating disorders and yoga for positive body image and embodiment. And that's something that Catherine Cook-Catone will be speaking about tomorrow. But also Swamiji from India wants to talk about the Dharma of yoga, so that kind of seeing yoga as a path, as a life path, both for ourselves and for the young people. And that's going to be really cool to get that perspective from India. I think that's something that we need more and more. But before we carry on, I'm going to just invite Nick now to just say a few words about the foundation and where we're at in terms of what the foundation has been up to in the last year and what we're planning to do in the next year in 2023, because it's a wonderful point to just be orientating ourselves. So I'm going to hand over to you, Nick, to give us a little bit of a picture.
Well, as you know, as you all know, the foundation's a charity, And I think the main thing that to share is that in the last year, really since the lockdown ended and the cost of living crisis has got worse, one of our main sources of income, which is our training for teen yoga teachers, is getting less takers. Since we started the charity, we've been basically funded by the surplus on that course, which has allowed us to do all the other work that we do, publicizing yoga for teens and doing research and so on and so forth. Because the numbers of people are lower, obviously, because no one's got any money to spend, we are more strapped for cash, and so we're shifting more towards donations, and we're shifting more towards going for money from grants and other sources like foundations that give money to charities to do useful things. Obviously, that means that we will rely more on sort of the word of mouth that everybody who knows us can do to say these guys need some help, and so on and so forth. And so that's a major shift for us, and we're spending quite a lot of time now looking for funding. We've had some good results this year with the National Lottery. We got 10,000 to explore the notion of teen yoga ambassadors, but out in the community. Which we're doing in communities here in Bath basically with youth clubs, and there's a couple that Bath is quite a well-off area, but this particular the zone that we live in and nearby are actually zone 1 in terms of the poverty levels. They're as bad as anywhere else in the country that you could mention. That is extreme poverty, and so we got funding to explore the use of ambassadors in communities there. And we also have a little pot of, we've also got another little pot of money to explore ambassadors for disadvantaged kids in another area. And we continue to do that. And we're currently hoping for some funding from the 4. We're in the shortlist at the present. And we continue on that line. With regard to other aspects, we do have an app in the pipeline, which is coming from basically from the Hippocampus project. We developed the initial version of the app, but that was not anything more than a prototype. And we're now, our problem was that we didn't have the funds to develop the main version. We got someone in South Africa who runs a very large multinational that does just about anything you could imagine. And they do develop mobile software, and one of the wife of the CEO of that company said, I think we can help you with that. And they have been helping us with it. They're currently testing the new version of the app, but it's taking a very long time because it's completely pro bono work. They're doing it for free, something that would cost upwards of 40,000 quid. And so we can't really force them to go any faster. We just, we're thankful for what they're doing. And at some time in the next sort of quarter, I would think, between now and Easter, we hope to be rolling that out. We also have a new website coming up. You may have seen that our website it functions, but it's a little bit clunky, and we've been wanting to change it for some time. And we are currently working on the content for that new website, which hopefully will be up before Christmas. We've also been working on our monthly themes, which you may or may not have seen popping up each month on the website. Jen, who has done a sterling job over the last year, is retiring, and we have 2 new people, Fiona and Nikki, coming in to help with that over the next year. And everyone who's willing to help them out with the monthly themes is very, very welcome. Just get in touch with me, Nick at TeenYoga. And so that's a little sort of summary of all the things we've been doing. We are also looking to carry on with our research work. We were Grace and Shivani were with us in October when we were up in Parliament talking to MPs, although it wasn't the best day for it because that was the day that Liz Truss resigned. or the day before. It was a day when all of the MPs
Grace
done their
wasn't
final.
there actually. It was Tabitha.
Oh, it was
Tabitha
Tabitha. I'm
ran it.
sorry,
Yeah,
Grace.
Grace is looking
And then you
confused.
else.
Like, was I there? No, she wasn't. She's there on other events, but not
Sorry, Grace. No, yeah, it was the
then.
day. It was a few days before. I think you came to.
Grace came to the Yoga show and helped you out
That's
there.
right. That's right. And yeah, on that day, we made good contacts, and we sort of furthered the process. And we also we developed for that a document which has some very cogent arguments for why teen yoga, which basically takes 3 particular instances of how we've shown that teen yoga can make a difference, and they focus on.
Very proud of this document because it's all kind of shiny and looks really like official.
And it's just called Rationale for Yoga in Schools, and anyone can take that off the website, print that out, and take it to the head at the school.
And he's got all the references at the back, and it's all written in kind of Anna, like EU speak. He's done it proper EU speak, so it all sounds very very official. But yeah, this is very useful for you guys if you want to, help support.
So basically, in there's 3 things. I mean, for a long time we've been saying yoga is great for mental health for young people. That's our sort of principal argument for the benefit, and therefore it's positive for young people's well-being, and that is something that schools get. Schools get the idea of well-being. Ofsted gets the idea of well-being. However, we have also had some slightly sad evidence this year that schools are interested in well-being, but not as interested as they are in academic results. And we actually had some schools this year who were doing yoga, got a good Ofsted result so that they won't have another inspection for 3 years because they had yoga, therefore they ticked the well-being box, and then they dropped the yoga. That's probably because they don't have the funds and they've got to economize somewhere. But it's very sad, but it's clear the message that we get from that is we're not going to get all the way if we just focus on well-being. We have to show the connection between positive mental health, positive well-being, and then that leads to focus in the classroom, and it leads to academic results. And then one of the things we have in that rationale, somebody called Rachel Holborough in Nottingham did some research in a school where she basically introduced a little amount of yoga just after lunch every day in all of the classes. She taught the teachers just to do some chair yoga, a few little breathing exercises, and some relaxations, and those were done every day. And during that term, basically, behavioural incidents across the school dropped by 50%. Furthermore, all the teachers, 100% of the teachers involved, said that the yoga had increased focus in their classroom. And the third piece of data, which she hadn't looked for but popped up, was that although this was the first term after COVID ended, so you'd expect the kids to be a little unfocused, oh, you're just showing the graph.
Yeah, this is the video that we made for it, so you can see.
Yeah, this summarizes what happened at Foxwood Academy. They were at 75 kids, and in 2019 and 2020, they'd always measured the amount of behavioural incidents over the day, and averaged them out over the term. And so what they did was, as I said, movement, breathing and relaxation. And you can see here in this graph over the day, the previous year, that was the shape of the graph. The highest number of incidents was at 3 p.m. That's what happened when you brought in yoga. So it dropped by half. But what we also found in the results was that you'd expect in that particular term for academic results to be worse than the previous year, because the kids had basically been out of school for about 8 months. And suddenly they're back in September going to class again, and you'd expect a drop in their academic results. But in fact, across all the indicators, key stage 3, 4, reading, writing, etc., mathematics, etc., they basically maintained the levels compared to the previous year. And in one area, key stage 3 reading, there was a 20% increase in the number of kids on track. So that we're seeing indications of an academic improvement there, thanks to the yoga. And so what we want to do now, and we're sort of preparing it now, is in a number of schools, one of which, in fact, in Massachusetts, we are aiming to repeat that research, but we will actually be actively looking at the academic results. And so our hope there is that if we can show there's an increase in the academic outcomes as well as the well-being outcomes, that's the moment where we kick the hinges off the door and we're in the room with the teachers saying, look, yoga works, take it up, everybody do it, because it changes your academic results. And that would be kind of our sort of our holy grail, you know, the moment where we finally prove the thing that we all know, which is that yoga improves your well-being, it improves your concentration, it improves your focus, it improves everything. And in a sense, our major problem as a charity is getting politicians to wake up to that. And so these kinds of results would really help. And the step after that, hopefully, if we can get those results, is that we can then go to large funders, a bit like the people who funded Myriad, that kind of scale, millions and large number of schools, like 50, 60 schools, and completely prove it once and for all. So that's where we are. And we look forward to any kind of help anyone can give us with regard to all these things.
It's very exciting to be part of it. It's very exciting to volunteer for us, because there's always something happening that's kind of unexpected, and there's a movement. It's a movement that's always growing, you know. And the other thing that Nick hasn't mentioned is we've been developing a few CPDs over the year, one on SEN and neurodivergency and yoga for young people, and the other one on Ayurveda and young people, which I think would be really interesting. And I'd love to offer that, Shivani and Grace, to you guys for free if you want to come on that one. I think you might find it really interesting. I don't know if you know anything about Ayurveda, Grace. Is that something? No. Shivani, I'm sure your mother knows all about it. But it's basically it's the sister science to yoga. It's how we eat and how we spend our time and how we, you know, to increase wellness. But it's very interesting.
Cool. Actually, as well as those two, there's that one on special educational needs and neurodivergence. There's the Ayurveda, but there is also one on relationships and sex education and yoga. Which is probably going to be sort of put out there in February or March with a bit of luck, maybe a bit later, but around then. And we're also working on hormones. Yeah, so how we can optimize our hormone production to balance our hormone production through using yoga, which I think is interesting for a lot of people on various levels. All right, well, I think that's really gives us an overview of where we are as a foundation. And I think, thank you very much, Nick, that's great. And tomorrow I'll be talking about the experience of running talking circles with all the youth centres in London, and how talking circles and yoga can kind of come together, but also how youth work and yoga can come together. And that's being much more creative around our yoga classes and taking it out a little bit broader. And then I said we've got our guest from India, Swamini, speaking about Dharma, the foundation of yoga. So what is your Dharma, how to find our Dharma in life, and what that means for us as teachers, but also what it means in terms of our relationship with young people, how we can support young people to find their Dharma, which I think is really fascinating. And then we have our talk with Catherine Cook-Catone, who is a lady we met in America 10 years ago. And she's written several articles and books on eating disorders and yoga. And she's going to be speaking about trauma, embodiment and yoga, which I think probably for me is the keynote talk of the whole weekend, and would be so interesting for anybody, you know, who wants to come along to that. I think, you know, let your friends know about that one, because I think if you just even vaguely interested in yoga, she's such a good speaker and she's got so much information to share. I think you might find that really interesting. And the fact that she's come all the way from USA to talk, you know, it feels kind of interesting. And then we've got Lisa Cayley-Eiley, who's basically been with us since the first ever conference 8 years ago. And she's going to be talking about mantra. So how do we use mantra to help ourselves, help our minds, and help young people? And then on Sunday, which is the last day, is we're going to be looking a little bit at the policy of what's going on in schools today, the state of play, financing.
And then we've got the lovely Elisa Harwood, who's going to be talking about dyspraxia and yoga. And then finally, the Ayurvedic talk with the woman who's going to be running our short courses, Angela Hope Murray. So she's going to be doing Preparing for Winter, short talk on Ayurveda at 3 o'clock on the Sunday before we have our closing session. So lovely, rich, but very kind of straightforward and practical solutions over the weekend. So I hope you can join us for all of them in some way or another. Also, just to let you know, Tabitha, who will be with us on the teen panel shortly, she's opened a TikTok account. So those of you who are social media savvy, we have a TikTok account now, which is really fun. And she does some really great videos. So if you want to share on social media, those are quite fun and really useful. So I think we're just going to close there and give me and the girls a little time to have a chat about the teen panel, and then we'll come back together in half an hour for the teen panel at 5:30, if that's okay. Yeah. So what I'll do is maybe ask Shivani and Grace to stay on, and I'll invite Tabitha and Hayley to this one, and we can just have a little chat here. Is that okay? Yeah. All right. Everybody else, goodbye and see you very soon on the teen panel.
A bientôt.
A bientôt. Nick, do you want to be part of this, or you need
I'll have
to
to stop the recording.
Oh yes, thank you. How do I do that? There we go.